My wife said it like she was reading the ingredients off the back of a cereal box. Calm, bored, almost proud of how little it meant. "I'm going back to my ex," she said. "I never loved you." 15 years is a long time to practice hearing a voice. You learn its shortcuts. You learn the tiny cracks that show up when somebody is lying, and the smooth, rehearsed tone they use when they want a lie to land like truth. This one wasn't smooth. It was sharp. We stood in the kitchen, where the overhead light buzzed whenever it felt like reminding me the house was old. The counters were clean because I'd cleaned them. The Christmas garland I'd hung along the window looked tired, drooping like a smile forced onto a bad day. Her suitcase was by the back door, standing upright like a witness. She didn't cry. She didn't soften it. No warm-up, no preamble, no, "we need to talk," the way decent people do when they're about to dismantle a life. She just dropped the sentence on the tile and waited for it to bounce. She expected a fight. She expected begging. She expected me to do what I'd always done, absorb the mess so she could keep walking like she hadn't made it. I felt the old reflex try to rise up anyway. That reflex is a trained dog. It comes when it's called. It wants to please. It wants to fix. I put my hands flat on the counter and held myself still until the dog lay down. "Okay," I said. She blinked, like the word had slapped her. "Okay?" I turned, walked to the back door, and opened it. Cold air rolled in, smelling like wet pavement and somebody's fireplace. I stepped aside like a hotel bellman. Her mouth opened, closed. She tried to laugh, but it came out thin. "That's it?" she said. "You're not even going to ask why?" I looked at the suitcase, then at her. She'd dressed like it was an interview. Black coat, clean boots, lipstick that said she'd already practiced this in a mirror. "Why?" I repeated like I was tasting the word. "Because you want to. Because you think you can. Because you believe leaving is power." Her eyes narrowed. "You don't get to psychoanalyze me." "I'm not," I said. "I'm summarizing." The silence stretched. In the quiet, I could hear the refrigerator motor kick on and off, like it was having second thoughts about continuing. She lifted her chin. "His name is—" "I don't need it," I said. That stopped her. She wanted me to picture him. She wanted me to feel small next to whatever story she'd built. If she could make him big enough, my shrinking would make her decision feel righteous. I didn't give her the space. She grabbed the suitcase handle. "Fine, be cold, be weird. That's what you do." People confuse silence with weakness. Silence is just preparation. She rolled the suitcase past me and down the steps, wheels bumping each edge like a countdown. At the driveway, she looked back, waiting for me to change, for me to plead, for me to become the version of myself she could control. I lifted a hand. Not a wave, not a goodbye. Just a gesture that meant, "Go on." She smiled then. Not happy, relieved, like she'd finally cut away the weight. As her car backed out, I stood in the open doorway with cold air on my face and watched the taillights fade into the street. The door stayed open after she was gone. I didn't close it right away. I let the house fill with winter and quiet, because for the first time in a long time, it felt honest. When I finally shut the door, my phone lit up with a text from her. "Don't be dramatic. I'll send someone for my things." I stared at the screen until it went dark again. Then I walked to the desk in the den, opened the bottom drawer, and took out the folder I hadn't touched in years. Inside was the paperwork she'd called a vibe brutaler. I set it on the desk like a body on a slab and flipped it open. On the first page, my name was the only name printed in bold, and on the last page, her signature sat under a clause she hadn't read. Outside, her car vanished. Inside, something in me finally woke up. At 11:17 p.m., the house settled with a soft pop, like a joint in a spine. It sounded almost like applause. Morning doesn't arrive. It intrudes. I hadn't slept. At 7:12 a.m., my phone rang, Unknown number. I answered on the second ring. Hello? A man's voice, low and tight, like he was speaking from a closet. Mr. Hale? That wasn't my first name. It was my last. He said it the way lawyers say names, like they're fastening a tag to a toe. Yes. This is Martin Caldwell. I represent your wife. There was a pause, a small inhale. Then, quieter. What did you say to her last night? I looked at the kitchen table where her mug used to sit. The empty space felt deliberate. I said okay, I told him. That's not what she's reporting, Caldwell whispered. She called me at midnight. She was upset, confused. She thinks you threatened her. I didn't. Another pause. Paper shuffling. The faint sound of a copier in the background, like time being duplicated. Mr. Hale, he said, louder now, voice trying to sound official. We have a situation developing. The house, the accounts, everything is falling apart. What kind of situation? He hesitated, then went back to whispering. She thought the house was joint. She thought the accounts were settled. She thought she had access. She went to the bank this morning and the teller told her she's not an authorized signer on the home equity line, he said, and that the joint account requires 2 signatures for transfers now, and her cards are declined. I closed my eyes, not out of sadness, out of recognition. Like seeing a trap actually spring after years of checking it was still armed. She says you did it, Caldwell added quickly, like he was afraid I'd hang up and leave him alone with the mess. I didn't do anything last night, I said. Then who? You mean, I said, who built it that way? Silence. You could hear a person's worldview cracking through a phone line. It sounds like disbelief trying to become math. I'm looking at documents, Caldwell said, clearing his throat. She may have made some assumptions. She did, I said. She always did. Mr. Hale, listen. I'm not calling to accuse you of anything. I'm calling because your wife is escalating. She's talking about calling the police, about, controlling her financially. I laughed once, small. It surprised even me. Controlling her financially? She had full access to the budget, to the cards, to everything I built. She called it adulting. Now she wants to call it control. Caldwell lowered his voice again. I need to ask you something plainly. Did you tell her she had to leave? Did you lock her out? No. I opened the door. More paper. A chair squeaking. I'm seeing a postnuptial agreement from 7 years ago, he said finally. Am I reading this correctly, that she waived any claim to the property titled in your name, including this residence, in exchange for me paying off her student loans? I finished. Yes. That agreement was notarized, witnessed, he said, stunned. She said it was romantic, I said, because I was taking care of her. Caldwell went quiet, long enough I thought the call dropped. Then he exhaled. She doesn't own what she thinks she owns, he said, and it sounded less like a statement and more like a prayer. On the other end, something thudded. Maybe a file, maybe his forehead hitting his desk. I'm going to advise her to calm down, Caldwell said, but if she's already with the other party, and she's making decisions based on assumptions, this can get ugly. It can, I agreed. And you're staying in the house? It's my house, I said. Right, he whispered. Right, of course. He paused again. Mr. Hale, off the record, are you trying to hurt her? I looked through the living room window at the street where kids were walking to school, backpacks too big for their bodies. The world kept moving like nothing happened in my kitchen last night. I'm trying to stop carrying her, I said. The difference is going to feel like hurt. I heard him swallow. Okay, he said, and it was the same word I'd used on her, but it didn't mean the same thing. It meant, I understand the gravity now. Before he hung up, he added one more thing, voice barely there. She's coming by later, with someone. With who? I asked, already knowing. He didn't answer. The line went gone. I stood in the kitchen with my phone in my hand, listening to the refrigerator, the house, the morning. Then I opened my laptop and logged into the bank. Not to steal, not to hide, just to see what was already true. The account history sat there like a confession, and under the login, a small note in gray text reminded me, security settings updated at 12:03 a.m. I hadn't changed them. I didn't need to. They'd been built like that from the day we signed. All I'd done was stop pretending the structure was shared. Outside, the garbage truck groaned down the street, lifting somebody else's waste. I poured coffee into my mug, took one sip, and tasted the bitter part of freedom. You can live in a lie for years if the lie pays the bills. In our marriage, the lie had a nice granite countertop and a mortgage rate I negotiated down to save us $170 a month. The lie had a dishwasher that never got loaded unless I loaded it. It had a calendar full of her team events and late nights and networking drinks that always seemed to land on the same days I was home. I built the lie carefully, not to trap her, to keep us afloat. 15 years ago, when we married, she was bright and hungry and unfinished. I loved her unfinished parts. I loved the way she talked about her plans like they were already done. I was the steady one, the underdog, the man who fixed things, who paid on time, who didn't mind being the quiet half of a loud pair. When we bought the house, she wanted a place in a neighborhood where people waved from their porches like they were in commercials. We couldn't afford it on paper. We could barely afford it with my overtime and a bonus that wasn't guaranteed. The loan officer said, "Her credit history is thin, yours is strong. Put it in your name and refinance later." Lila smiled and said, "Sure, whatever. We're married. It's all ours." That was the first assumption. 7 years ago, when her father's business went under and her mother called crying about a second mortgage, Lila came to me with a spreadsheet. She'd made the numbers look like a magic trick. "I need help," she said. "Just for a while." I said yes, because love, when it's young, thinks yes is endless. I consolidated her student loans under my credit. I refinanced the house to cover them. The bank's attorney slid a postnuptial agreement across the table and explained it like a seatbelt. "Standard," he said. "Protection for both parties. Clarity." Lila rolled her eyes. Paperwork is such a vibe brutaler. But she signed. Because she wanted the refinance. Because she wanted the check to clear. Because she believed the marriage made signatures meaningless. She married a man. She divorced the infrastructure. I remembered that phrase from the outline I'd once scribbled in a notebook after a fight. I hadn't known it would become prophecy. By mid-morning, my own lawyer was on a video call. Her name was Joyce Hargrove, and she had the kind of face that didn't waste sympathy. "You haven't filed anything yet?" she asked. "No," I said. "Good," she replied. "Then you're not reacting, you're choosing." I told her about Caldwell's call, about the bank, about Lila's threats to call the police. Joyce listened, expression flat. When I finished, she said, "She can call whoever she wants. There's no crime in following contracts." "What about joint accounts?" I asked. "Joint means both own," Joyce said. "Joint also means either party can drain it. That's why we protect you today." She held up a finger. Not by hiding money, by documenting. She had me do 3 things. First, I opened a new account solely in my name and redirected my direct deposit. That wasn't revenge. That was a man taking his paycheck out of a slot machine. Second, we sent a notice to the bank requesting a 2-signature requirement on transfers from the joint account. The bank allowed it because the account terms permitted a security lock when either holder reported potential misuse. No fraud, no drama, just paperwork. Third, Joyce filed a petition for legal separation and exclusive use of the residence, citing abandonment and financial uncertainty. Again, boring words with sharp teeth. While Joyce worked, I walked through the house and took photos. Every room, every drawer. Not because I wanted to be petty, because I'd been married long enough to know that people rewrite history when it helps them. In the bedroom closet, her side was half empty already. She'd been packing for a while. At noon, my phone buzzed again. A text from Lila. "You're being insane. Answer me." Then, another. "He says you're bluffing. He says you always fold." I stared at that one. There it was. The other party. The ex. The man she'd turned into a rescuer in her head. The man who told her I was harmless. The man who thought I was a chair she could get up from. I didn't respond. I went back to photographing the living room. The sofa I'd paid for. The rug she picked but never vacuumed. The framed wedding photo on the mantel where she leaned into me like she meant it. In the afternoon, Joyce emailed me copies of what she filed. The court-stamped date glowed in black ink. Filed. My phone rang again. Not Caldwell, a different number. I answered, and heard a voice I didn't recognize, smooth and amused. "Ethan?" the voice said, like we were friends. My stomach tightened. "Who is this?" I asked. A little laugh. "Come on, don't pretend, it's Elliot." The ex. He used his first name like it was enough to justify why he had my number. "I just wanted to say," Elliot continued, "she told me you took it surprisingly well. Good for you." "Is there a point?" I asked. "You know," he said, "some guys lose it. Make scenes. I respect that you didn't." He paused, then added, like he was offering advice, "Just don't do anything stupid. This is life. People move on." People, like we were talking about changing phone carriers. I looked out the window at my driveway. Empty. "What are you doing with her?" I asked. Another laugh, a little crueler. "What do you think?" I felt something cold settle behind my ribs, not rage, not sadness, calculation. "I think," I said, "you should check where you're planning to live." Elliot chuckled. "She's got a house." I let the silence hang just long enough for him to lean into it. Then I said, "No. She has memories." His breath caught. It was small, but I heard it. That tiny moment when arrogance meets uncertainty. "What's that supposed to mean?" he asked. "It means," I said, "you're inheriting a mess." He scoffed, but the scoff had a crack in it. "Sure, whatever. She's coming by tonight to pick up her things. I'll be there." "Good," I said. "Good," he repeated, surprised. "Parking garage, Rivershore Plaza, 7, I said. "Bring your confidence." He went quiet, then cautious. "Why would I meet you?" "Because," I said, "you already are." And I hung up before he could laugh it off. The afternoon light shifted, making the living room shadows longer. The house felt like it was holding its breath. Somewhere out there, Lila believed leaving was power. Somewhere out there, Elliot believed he'd won a prize. Neither of them understood the difference between a door and a trap. At 6:43 p.m., Joyce texted me one line. "Locks changed on account access. Court date set. You're in control." I looked at that line for a long time. Control wasn't what I wanted, but it was what I was finally willing to take. Rivershore Plaza looked expensive. The garage behind it didn't. I got there at 6:55. I didn't bring a weapon. I didn't bring a plan for violence. I brought a folder, my phone, and the part of my brain that had been awake all night counting exits. Elliot arrived at 7:04 in a black SUV that looked leased and smug. He parked crooked in 2 spaces like the rules were for other men. He stepped out wearing a wool coat and a grin that didn't reach his eyes. He looked like a man who'd been told he was charming his whole life and believed it even when his charm got people hurt. "You actually showed," he said. "I said I would," I replied. He laughed. "You're more dramatic than she said." A valet, kid, maybe 19, glanced at us from the stairwell, then looked away. That's what people do in garages. They pretend not to see. It's safer. Elliot walked closer, hands in his pockets. "So what's the deal?" You want to threaten me? Tell me to stay away? You know she's done, right? She told you that, I said. She told me she never loved you, he said, enjoying the words. That's brutal. I almost feel bad. I didn't move. You should. His grin faltered. For you? For yourself, I said. He tilted his head. Explain. I pulled the folder from under my arm and tapped it with my finger. This is a postnuptial agreement, notarized, witnessed, signed by your girlfriend. He laughed again, louder, like paperwork was a joke. Okay? Clause 4, I said. In the event of abandonment and infidelity, she waives claims to property titled solely to me. Elliot's smile thinned. Infidelity is hard to prove. I held up my phone. It's not, when people leave their tablet synced to the living room Wi-Fi. He blinked. Dirty details aren't dirty until they're written down. Then, they're just facts with sharp edges. Lila called you the upgrade in a group chat, I said. She wrote that I was housebroken and easy to manage, as long as she kept me busy with projects. She wrote about you picking her up after team events, and how she liked doing it in your car because it smells like you. Elliot's face twitched. He tried to hold the grin, but it sagged. Why are you telling me this? He asked. Because you think you're taking my place, I said. You're not. You're taking her debt, her excuses, her appetite. He scoffed, but the sound was weaker now. She's got a job. She's fine. She's got a job, I agreed. And she's got a spending habit. And she's got no equity in the home she's been posting on social media like she built it. He stepped closer, voice sharper. Are you going to keep her stuff? You going to lock her out? I'm going to follow the law, I said. The law says she can retrieve personal items with notice. The law also says she can't move in and out whenever she wants once we file. Elliot's eyes flicked to the folder, to my phone, to the stairwell where the valet kid was pretending to scroll. What do you want? Elliot asked. I considered that. The truth was ugly and simple. I want you to understand, I said, that she left a man. She didn't leave a system. He snorted, forcing confidence back. You think you're some mastermind. No, I said. I think you're careless. His face hardened. You're not going to scare me, Ethan. I took one step forward, not close enough to touch him, close enough to make him smell the coffee on my breath and the cold on my coat. I'm not here to scare you, I said softly. I'm here to stop you from thinking you're safe. His jaw clenched. What are you going to do? I looked past him at his SUV. You parked like a man who never had consequences. He glanced back instinctively. That was all I needed. I moved, fast but controlled, and slid behind him, not toward him, toward the stairwell door. He turned, confused, then followed. What are you doing? He snapped. I pushed the stairwell door open and nodded to the valet kid. Hey, I said, your manager around? The kid startled. Yeah, why? I held up Elliot's key fob. He'd set it on the hood of his SUV while he postured, like a man in a movie. I hadn't stolen it. I'd picked it up off my own car's windshield where it had landed when he brushed past. Found this on the ground by the stairs, I said. Someone might have dropped it. Elliot's eyes widened. Give that back. The kid looked between us, uneasy. Sir, is that yours? Elliot reached for it. I didn't yank away. I simply held it high enough to make him show his hand. Is it yours? The kid asked again, now alert. Elliot forced a smile that didn't fit his face. Yeah, thanks. The kid didn't hand it over. He nodded toward the security office. We got a log lost items, policy. Elliot's smile cracked. Policy? He repeated, like the word offended him. Just a signature, the kid said. 2 minutes. Elliot looked at me, suspicion flaring. This your little game? I shrugged. I like policies. His eyes darted to the garage exit, like he was measuring how fast he could leave. Fine, he said too loud. Let's do it. We walked toward the security office, fluorescent lights buzzing, cameras blinking in the corners like unblinking eyes. Elliot's boots clicked too fast. His confidence had shifted into irritation, the way men get when they realize the world doesn't care how charming they are. Inside the tiny office, the security guard asked for ID and a signature. Elliot complied, jaw tight. Elliot snatched the fob and turned on me in the hallway, voice low. You just wanted my number on file. I wanted you on record, I said. For what? For showing up at my home tonight, I said. For escalating. For being present when she tries to take things that aren't hers. He scoffed, but sweat gleamed at his hairline now. You can't stop her. I don't have to, I said. Contracts do. He stepped closer, anger trying to replace fear. You think you're replacing her with paperwork? I'm replacing her with reality, I said. And reality doesn't care who you used to be. His nostrils flared. He wanted to hit me. I could see it. The twitch in his arm, the tightening in his shoulder. But cameras were everywhere. The guard was watching. The kid was watching. Elliot swallowed his impulse like it tasted bad. He took a step back and pulled out his phone, thumb flying. You're going to regret this, he said. Maybe, I replied. But you'll regret trusting her first. He walked away fast, calling Lila, his voice sharp and panicked now, the charm gone. As he disappeared down the garage ramp, his words echoed off the concrete. She says you had nothing. She says you're bluffing. Are you sure about this? I watched him go, then turned and walked back to my car. My hands were steady on the steering wheel. My heart wasn't. On my phone, a new notification popped up. Lila, we're coming over. Don't do anything stupid. I smiled without humor. The stupid part was already done, 15 years ago. Lila arrived at 9:18 p.m. with Elliot in tow like he was luggage. She didn't knock. She used the key she still had because she assumed keys were power. The key didn't turn. She rattled it again, harder, then pounded on the door with her fist. Ethan, she yelled. Open up! I took my time, not to be cruel, to be precise. When I opened the door, I didn't step aside. I stood in the doorway like a boarder. Lila's eyes flicked over my shoulder into the house. She looked for signs, missing furniture, boxes, some dramatic proof that I'd lost my mind. There was none. Everything looked the same. That's what made her angry. Elliot stood behind her, hands in his pockets, trying to look casual. His face was still shiny from the garage lights. He looked like he'd been sweating. You changed the locks, Lila snapped. I changed the code, I corrected. That's the same thing. No, I said. It isn't. She swallowed, then tried a different angle, the old one she used when she wanted me to feel guilty for having boundaries. I have rights, she said. This is my home. It's the home you walked out of, I replied. Elliot laughed once, short. Come on, man, don't be petty. I looked at him. You're in my doorway, I said. Don't talk to me about petty. Lila leaned forward, voice dropping, venom sweet. You think you can punish me because I finally told you the truth? Because I finally admitted I never loved you? Her words were aimed at my chest. She wanted to see them stick. They didn't. I think you should take your things, I said, and then leave. She stared, searching for the crack. You're acting like you're in control. I am, I said. Her face flushed. Because you're trying to control the money. That's your favorite word, I said. Control. You use it when you want to turn consequences into abuse. Elliot stepped forward, chest puffing. We're just here for her stuff. Let us in. I lifted my phone and showed them the screen. A message from Joyce. Inventory. 2 witnesses if possible. Keep it calm. I already notified your lawyer, I said to Lila. You can get personal items tonight. Clothes, toiletries, documents, nothing else. And you do it with me present. Lila's eyes widened. You called my lawyer? He called me, I said. Her mouth opened, closed. Elliot's confidence wavered. This is insane, he muttered. Lila hissed, Shut up. That little slip, the way she snapped at him, made me almost laugh. She'd promised him a clean exit, a smooth transfer, a life without mess. Now he was seeing the mess, and she couldn't keep her mask on. Fine, Lila said, jaw tight. I'm going in. I stepped aside, but I didn't invite them. I let them pass like criminals escorted into a museum. Lila marched upstairs, grabbing hangers off the closet rod like she was ripping out weeds. She filled trash bags with dresses, jeans, lingerie she'd bought with our money and worn for somebody else. Downstairs, Lila stomped back into the kitchen with her arms full of paperwork. These are mine, she said, shoving a stack of folders toward me. I flipped through them. Utility bills, credit card statements, her vision board binder from 3 years ago. The mortgage documents aren't here, she said, voice tight. They're in my folder, I replied. Her eyes narrowed. Where's the home equity checkbook? There isn't one, I said. There never was. She stared at me like I'd changed the rules mid-game. You're lying. I'm not, I said. She thrust her phone at me. Call the bank then, right now. Tell them to fix it. That's between you and your lawyer, I said. Her voice rose. You're doing this to humiliate me. No, I said. You humiliated yourself. I'm just not cleaning it up. Elliot tried to step in, voice softer now. Lila, maybe we should... She whipped around. Do not tell me what to do. He flinched. There it was again. The truth, leaking out. She didn't love him any more than she loved me. She loved what she thought he represented. Escape, youth, ego. Now that escape had a price tag, she treated him like an employee who'd messed up. She turned back to me, eyes bright with anger and fear now. I'm going to take you to court, she said. I'll be there, I replied. You'll lose, she insisted. I tilted my head. You didn't even know what you owned, I said. How are you going to win? Her breath came faster. Elliot's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and went pale. What? Lila demanded. He swallowed. My landlord, he said. He's asking why my unit is listed as occupied +1 on the building portal. I looked at him. Because you requested an additional parking pass last month, I said. And you wrote her name on the form. His eyes widened. How do you... I told you, I said. People leave their devices synced. Lila stared at Elliot. You did that? She snapped. Elliot raised his hands. I was just planning. Planning. That was Elliot's problem. He planned for the romance, not for the paperwork. Lila's face twisted, and for the first time since she walked out, I saw genuine panic. She whispered, Where am I supposed to go? The question wasn't about love. It was about logistics. I answered it like, logistics. Not here, I said. Her eyes flashed. You think you're going to throw me out? You threw yourself out, I replied. She opened her mouth to scream, but my phone buzzed again. Joyce. I stepped away and answered. Joyce's voice was calm. We got the temporary order request on file. Judge review is tomorrow morning. If granted, you can request a civil standby for any future property retrieval. Keep tonight limited. Understood, I said. Lila watched me, trying to read the call through my face. When I hung up, she said, voice shaking with rage, What was that? That was my lawyer, I said. Her laugh was brittle. You got a lawyer? You're really doing this? I'm doing what you started, I said. Elliot shifted uncomfortably. Can we just go? He muttered. Lila rounded on him again. If you can't handle it, leave. He stared at her. The spell was breaking. He wasn't the hero in this story. He was the guy who'd answered a text. I watched them both, the triangle finally collapsing into a line. Her at one end, me at the other, and him in the middle, realizing he'd been used. Lila shoved the trash bags toward the door. "I'm taking these," she said. "Take them," I replied. She stepped onto the porch, then turned back, eyes wet now, voice changing into something softer. Nostalgia, a last attempt. "You're really okay with this?" she asked. "After everything?" I looked at her and thought about the mornings I'd made coffee while she slept, the nights I'd stayed up balancing numbers so she could chase her dream career, the way she'd called me boring in that group chat. "Not okay?" I said. "Just done." Her lip trembled. "You're going to regret letting me go." I leaned against the doorframe. "Maybe," I said, "but you're going to regret assuming I'd chase you." She stepped down the stairs, Elliot following with the bags, his shoulders hunched like he'd just lost a fight he didn't understand. Before she got in the car, she pulled out her phone and made a call. I watched her face as she listened, watched the color drain. She glanced back at me, eyes wide. Then she mouthed one word through the windshield. "Court?" I smiled and lifted my hand, the same gesture as last night. "Go on." As their car pulled away, Joyce's earlier text repeated in my head. "Document, don't dramatize." So I did something boring. I opened my laptop, logged in, and scheduled the final step Joyce had mentioned. It looked like nothing. Just a calendar appointment and a filed motion. But boring things, done correctly, are how you break a person without ever laying a hand on them. And Lila had no idea what was waiting for her at 9 a.m. The courthouse smelled like floor polish and old paper. It felt like a place built to swallow voices. Joyce met me in the hallway outside courtroom 3B. She wore a charcoal suit and carried a thin file like it weighed nothing. "You look tired," she said. "I didn't sleep," I replied. She nodded once, like that checked a box. "Good." "Don't," she said. "Sleep is for after." Across the hallway, Lila stood with Martin Caldwell and Elliot. Elliot looked out of place here. He kept glancing at the signs, the security cameras, the uniformed deputies. He'd thought the drama would be personal. Instead, it was institutional, and institutions don't flirt. Lila wore a cream coat and high heels like she was going to brunch. Her face was tight, makeup perfect but strained. She saw me and didn't wave. She just stared, like she was trying to will me into being the man who begged. Caldwell walked over, clearing his throat. "Mr. Hale," he said. Joyce stepped forward. "Martin," she said, and the way she said his first name made him shrink a half-inch. He smiled nervously. "Joyce, always a pleasure." "Sure," she said. "Let's keep it simple. Temporary orders, exclusive use, financial restraints. We have the postnup and evidence of infidelity." Caldwell's face paled. "We'd prefer to discuss—" "No," Joyce said. "You can discuss with your client. We discuss with the court." Lila snapped. "You showed her my messages?" "I showed my lawyer what you did," I said. "That's private," she hissed. Joyce's eyes didn't move. "It's relevant," she said. Caldwell lowered his voice. "Ethan, Mr. Hale, off the record. She's willing to negotiate. She's willing to sign something for a quick dissolution." Lila's eyes snapped to him. "I am?" He flinched. "We need to be realistic," he murmured. Joyce held up the file. "We are realistic," she said. "Here's the reality. House is titled solely to Ethan. Postnup waives her claim. She left voluntarily. There's documented adultery. My client has maintained the residence and paid the mortgage. We're requesting exclusive use and a restraining order on financial transfers." Lila's face reddened. "You're making me sound like a criminal." "Not a criminal," Joyce said. "A breach of contract." Lila stepped closer to me, voice breaking into a hiss. "You're doing this because you're embarrassed." I looked at her. "I'm doing this because you said you never loved me," I said, "and I finally believed you." Her eyes glistened. "That's not—" Caldwell touched her elbow, trying to calm her. She jerked away. Elliot shifted, hands in his pockets, avoiding everyone's eyes. Caldwell tried again, turning to Joyce. If we could just… Joyce cut him off with 2 words. We can't. Caldwell blinked. Excuse me? We can't undo this, Joyce said, clear as a bell. The words echoed down the hallway, and in that moment I saw Lila's confidence falter like a candle in wind. She grabbed Caldwell's arm. Fix it, she whispered harshly. You said you'd fix it. He looked at her with something close to pity. I can't fix documents you signed, he murmured back. I can't fix the fact that the house isn't jointly titled. I can't fix a bank's security protocols. Her jaw clenched. Then you're a bad lawyer. Caldwell's eyes flashed. Or you're a bad client, he said under his breath. That stunned her. She'd never been told that, not by anyone she hired. A clerk opened the courtroom door and called our names. We filed in. The judge sat above us, tired-eyed, voice all business. Joyce spoke for me. Clear, calm, clipped. Title, postnup, abandonment, financial risk, evidence of adultery, request for exclusive use and a mutual restraint on asset transfers. Caldwell stammered through an argument about equity and marital contribution and unfairness, but every time he spoke, Joyce produced a document. Paper beats feelings. The judge listened, then looked at Lila. Ma'am, she said, did you sign this agreement? Lila's lips parted. I didn't understand. The judge cut her off. Did you sign it? Yes, Lila whispered. And did you leave the marital residence last night voluntarily? The judge asked. Lila glanced at me, panic in her eyes. She wanted me to lie for her, to soften it, to save her from the consequences of her own words. I didn't move. Yes, she said, voice breaking. The judge nodded. Temporary exclusive use to the petitioner, she said. Mutual restraining order on transfers. Respondent may retrieve personal items one time with civil standby arranged through counsel. Next hearing in 30 days. The gavel tap sounded like a coffin lid. Lila's face went blank. Caldwell gathered papers like he was packing up a collapsed tent. Outside the courtroom, in the hallway again, Lila grabbed my sleeve. Ethan, she said, voice shaking. Please, just talk to me. Joyce stepped between us without even looking. Through counsel, she said. Lila's eyes filled, and her voice turned desperate. You can't do this. Where am I supposed to go? Elliot. She turned toward Elliot like he was a lifeboat. Elliot avoided her eyes. He looked at the floor, at the exit sign, at anything but her. Lila stared at him. You said I could stay with you. Elliot swallowed. My lease, he mumbled. Caldwell rubbed his forehead. Ma'am, he said, we should leave. Lila's shoulders shook. No, she whispered. No, this isn't happening. But it was happening, and it was happening in fluorescent light with strangers watching. As we walked away, Joyce leaned toward me. Next step is mediation request and property sale notice, she said quietly. You ready? I thought of the house, of the garland, of the wedding photo, of her words, I never loved you. I'm ready, I said. Behind us, Lila's voice rose in the hallway, sharp and cracking. This is your fault, she screamed at Elliot. You said he was nothing. Elliot didn't answer, and that silence, his silence, was the first real punishment she'd felt from someone else. Elliot worked out at a private gym on the 3rd floor of a renovated warehouse downtown, the kind of place with a juice bar and exposed brick and the smell of sweat hidden under eucalyptus. I knew because Lila had bragged about it once, like it made her special by association. He belongs there, she'd said. It's his crowd. Crowds are just witnesses waiting to be informed. I didn't walk in like a jealous husband. I walked in like a man with a purpose. The front desk clerk wore earbuds and looked up only when I spoke. I'm here for Elliot, I said. She glanced at the screen. Are you a client? No, I said. I'm the reason he's distracted. She frowned, not understanding. Good. I didn't push past. I waited by the water fountain near the entrance where everyone had to pass. Elliot came out of the locker area 10 minutes later wearing a tight shirt and a look that said he hadn't slept either. His eyes landed on me and widened, then narrowed with anger. Are you stalking me now? I'm standing, I said. Stalking requires effort. He glanced around, embarrassed. People in this kind of gym pretend they're above drama, but they listen like everyone else. You can't be here, he hissed. I can, I said. It's a lobby. I'm not breaking anything. He got closer, voice low. You got your court thing, congrats. Leave me out of it. You put yourself in it, I replied. He flinched. I didn't know it was like this. That's what you said last night in the garage, I told him. Planning, remember? His jaw tightened. What do you want? I held up my phone, not to wave it like a weapon, just to let the glass catch the light. I want you to stop thinking you're the prize, I said. His nostrils flared. I am not. You are, I cut in. To her, a prize, a trophy, a narrative. She told her friends you were the reason she finally picked herself. She said she was escaping me. His face shifted, discomfort creeping in. He wanted to deny it, but he'd lived long enough to know people do ugly things when they believe a story. And now? I asked. Now she's trying to move into your place. Now she's calling you to fix what you can't fix. How's that prize feel? He looked past me, eyes flicking toward the door like it was an exit from shame. You don't understand, he said. She said you were passive, that you'd roll over. I nodded. You bought her revision. He swallowed. I didn't tell her. You encouraged her, I said. You told her leaving was easy. You told her you'd catch her. His face tightened. I didn't promise. I leaned in, just enough for him to hear me without anyone else hearing. My voice dropped to a whisper. You thought you were rescuing her, I said. You were helping her jump off a roof. Now she wants you to be the ground. His eyes flashed. Are you threatening me? I shook my head. No, I said. I'm informing you. A man in a polo shirt stepped out from the office at the side. Manager, maybe. He eyed us. Is there a problem? He asked, voice cautious. Elliot forced a smile. No, just personal. The manager's gaze shifted to me. Sir, if you're not a member, you can't loiter. I nodded. Understood, I said. I just needed to deliver something. I reached into my coat and took out an envelope. Inside was a single printed page. Nothing dramatic. Just the court's temporary order that named Elliot as a third party present during last night's attempted property retrieval and warned against harassment or interference. I held it out. Elliot stared at it like it was a snake. What is that? He asked. A reminder, I said. If you come near my house again, it becomes a legal problem, not a drama problem. He swallowed. I'm not going near your house. Good, I said. He stared at me, breathing hard. She's blowing up my phone, he admitted. She's saying you're ruining her life. I smiled faintly. I'm not ruining her life, I said. I'm letting it be what it is without me propping it up. The manager cleared his throat. Sir, he said to Elliot, do you want security? Elliot glanced at him, then back at me. For a moment he looked like he might say yes, like he might try to make me the villain on camera to save face. Then he looked down at the envelope again and made a different choice. No, he said. He's leaving. I nodded. I am, I agreed. As I turned toward the door, Elliot's voice cracked behind me. Why are you doing this? He asked. I stopped, hand on the push bar, because the honest answer wasn't pretty. I looked back and said, because she spent 15 years teaching me what she respected. He frowned. What's that? I held his eyes. Consequences, I said. His face went pale. I pushed the door open, winter air rushing in, and stepped out onto the sidewalk. Behind me, I heard Elliot take a shaky breath. Then, faintly, his phone rang again. He didn't answer. That was his first real act of courage. And it was the moment Lila lost him, even if she didn't know it yet. The final meeting wasn't in a courtroom. It was in a mediation room on the second floor of an office building that smelled like coffee and carpet cleaner. Neutral space. Neutral rules. Joyce sat beside me at a small table. Across from us, Lila sat with Caldwell. Elliot was not invited, and that fact alone was its own humiliation. Lila looked hollow. The cream coat was gone. Her hair was pulled back tight. Her lipstick was absent, like she'd finally run out of energy to pretend. Caldwell shuffled papers, avoiding eye contact with anyone. He looked like a man trying to outrun a train with a briefcase. The mediator, a woman with glasses and a calm voice, spoke in that soothing tone people use in hospitals. "We're here to discuss a settlement," she said. "This is confidential. The goal is to reach agreement without further litigation." Lila's gaze locked on me. "I want my house," she said. Joyce didn't flinch. "It's not yours," she said. Lila slammed her palm on the table. "I lived there for 15 years. "You lived there," Joyce agreed. "You didn't own it." Lila's eyes flashed to Caldwell. "Say something." Caldwell cleared his throat. "We're exploring equitable distribution options," he said weakly. Joyce slid a document across the table, 1 page. "Equitable distribution starts with assets," she said. "Here's the list. House, solely titled to Ethan, waived in postnup. Retirement, Ethan's, separate. Joint account, frozen, to be split per contributions. Vehicles, 1 each. Personal property, to be divided by mutual agreement." Lila's hands shook as she read. This is the marriage you actually had," I said. Her eyes snapped up. "Don't do that," she hissed. "Don't act like you're some saint." I didn't smile. "I'm not a saint," I said. "I'm the guy you used because I was stable." The mediator raised a hand gently. "Let's keep language neutral." "No," Lila snapped, eyes wet. "He gets to say whatever he wants and I have to be polite?" Joyce's voice stayed level. "You could have been polite last night," she said. "You chose cruelty." Lila's mouth opened, then closed, and her eyes filled. "I didn't mean it like that," she whispered. I stared at her. "You meant it enough to say it," I replied. Caldwell leaned toward her. "Lila," he murmured, "we should focus on what's realistic." She turned on him, wild. "You're supposed to fight for me." "I can't fight a contract," he said, and the words sounded like surrender. The mediator cleared her throat. "There is one more matter," she said, looking at Joyce. "You mentioned a pending sale notice?" Joyce nodded. She slid another document forward. Lila's eyes widened as she read the header. "Notice of intent to sell." Her voice broke. "What is this?" "It's a notice," Joyce said, "because the house is titled solely to Ethan, because you waived claim, because he has exclusive use. He is listing the property for sale." Lila's face went pale so fast, I thought she might faint. "You can't," she whispered. "I can," I said. Her eyes darted around the room, searching for an authority to stop me. The mediator didn't move. Caldwell didn't move. Paper didn't move. Lila's voice rose. "Where am I supposed to go?" I heard the same question she'd asked on the porch. Same fear, same missing thing. Not love, a plan. "You're an adult," I said. "Figure it out." She stared at me like she'd never seen me before. Maybe she hadn't. She tried a new tactic, voice suddenly soft. "We can fix this," she said. "Ethan, we can go to counseling. We can—" I shook my head slowly. "You don't want counseling," I said. "You want a reset button." Her eyes brimmed. "I made a mistake." "You made a decision," I corrected. Caldwell whispered to her, "The sale is legal if the waiver holds, and the temporary order supports it." Lila turned toward him, betrayal in her eyes. You're on his side. Caldwell's shoulders sagged. I'm on reality's side, he said. The mediator spoke gently. We can discuss a limited relocation stipend, she said. A short-term arrangement to help her transition. Joyce glanced at me. This was the part where a decent man might show mercy. Decent men get used. I looked at Lila and thought about that group chat. The words, housebroken, easy to manage, keep him busy. I thought about the way she'd smiled driving away. I slid one last envelope across the table. Inside was a copy of the printed chat thread from her tablet. Not all of it. Just enough. Lila's fingers hovered over it like it might burn. What is that? She whispered. The truth, I said. She pulled the page out, eyes scanning, and as she read, her breath hitched. Her face twisted. Shame colored her cheeks. The mediator's eyes flicked down, then away, professional but human. Caldwell swallowed hard. Lila's voice came out thin. You printed this? Yes, I said. You're humiliating me, she whispered. No, I said. You wrote it. I'm archiving it. Her shoulders shook. I can't believe you. I leaned forward, elbows on the table, and for the first time, I let my voice carry the edge I'd been keeping behind my teeth. You looked me in the eye and told me you never loved me, I said. So I stopped loving you in the only way that mattered, by stopping your free ride. Lila sobbed once, loud and ugly, the sound of a person losing the story they used to live. Caldwell cleared his throat, voice shaky. We can propose terms, he said. But if you list the house and the court enforces the waiver, there's not much leverage. Joyce nodded. Correct. Lila stared at me, eyes red, and whispered, So that's it. You're just erasing me. I didn't answer right away. The room felt too small, air thick with carpet cleaner and panic. Then I said, You erased us first. The mediator asked, Do you accept any proposed settlement? Her voice was calm, but even she looked tired now. Lila looked at Caldwell, looked at the papers, looked at her own hands like she didn't recognize them. Finally she said, voice flat, What happens if I don't sign? Joyce didn't smile. Then we proceed, she said. You spend money you don't have. You lose anyway. You delay the inevitable. Lila's eyes went to me again, and in them I saw something new, not anger, understanding. She realized leaving wasn't power. She realized silence wasn't weakness. She realized the man she'd underestimated had become something else. A villain, maybe, but a legal one. I stood up, pushing my chair back softly. I'm done here, I said. Lila jolted. Wait, Ethan! I didn't look at her. I looked at the mediator. Thank you, I said. Then I looked at Joyce. File it, I said. Joyce nodded. Caldwell's face tightened as if he'd just tasted metal. Lila's voice cracked behind me, desperate. Where am I supposed to go? I paused at the door, not out of kindness, out of clarity. I turned just enough to meet her eyes once more. You said you were going back to your ex, I said. Go. Her mouth opened. No sound came out. I left the room, walked down the hallway past framed prints of smiling landscapes, and stepped into the elevator. As the doors slid shut, I caught one last glimpse of her through the glass panel, sitting at the table, papers spread like broken wings, realizing she'd been standing on my shoulders the whole time. When the doors opened on the ground floor, my phone buzzed. Joyce, listing is live. I stepped outside, breathed in the cold, and felt something settle inside me like a lock clicking shut. Behind me, upstairs, Lila's life was collapsing. I walked to my car. I didn't look back.